Now look, I know there's a ton of terrible shit going on in the world every day, which is why tonight I want to talk about something more lighthearted. Sudan. Now you probably know Sudan best for two things: the genocide in Darfur and white savior movies.
You must be the guys from Somalia, Senegal.
Sudan. We're here to make a difference. We can save these people.
That's the orphanage that we're gonna build in Sudan.
Helping you kids is about the only good thing I've ever done in this life. You got no idea what I'm saying, do you?
Gerard Butler's like, I wish you knew English so you could hear me whitewash your story. Don't you know this whole story's about me? The kid's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Now, as much as I'd like to spend the rest of the episode discussing the nuances of Machine Gun Preacher, we have to talk about Sudan, because right now, the country is descending into chaos.
Gunfire, panic, and chaos penetrate the streets of the Sudanese capital.
Dozens were killed and injured in hours of violence. It saw troops open fire on unarmed demonstrators.
A witness tells CNN paramilitaries and secret police laid siege to the protest using whips, tear gas, and snipers.
Just this week, Sudan's security forces opened fire on protesters in Khartoum, the capital of Sudan. At least 100 people are believed to have been killed, and the numbers keep climbing. Right now, the military is cracking down on a massive movement calling for democracy.
This was the scene just over a week ago. Thousands of demonstrators felt comfortable enough to gather here every day to call for democracy in a country which has seen nothing like it for 3 decades. Today, it's the demonstrators who've been removed.
This is a critical moment for Sudan. This is a country with major geopolitical significance, and what happens in the coming weeks will set the course for an entire generation. Just a few months ago, things looked so good in Sudan because those same protesters managed to help topple a dictator who had ruled Sudan for decades.
After 30 years in power, President Omar al-Bashir has been forced out of power by the country's military. Thousands of people were marching toward the military headquarters, chanting, "He is a coward and he has fallen."
Bashir was in power since 1989. That's a full Taylor Swift ago. Yeah, it was a very different kind of bad blood. It broke the Geneva Convention. 30 years of Bashir, that's a long time. Sudan has only been a country for 63. It gained independence in 1956.
The world has gained a new nation. The Sudan, for 58 years under the joint rule of Britain and Egypt, becomes an independent republic, and the new flag is hoisted. Blue for the Nile, yellow for the desert, green for agriculture.
I love how old school newsreels always had those massive orchestras playing underneath. Why don't we still do that?
There's a new and sobering assessment of how Kim is moving ahead with his nuclear weapons program. South Korea's intelligence community estimates North Korea may have as many as 60 nuclear warheads.
See, that's way more suspenseful. Can't you just, like, hear the orchestra? It's like, who will emerge a hero? Will Young Jong-un ever find love? Tune in next week on CNN. You're like, I gotta watch this. Now look, I know coups in Africa are like trailers for Marvel movies. It just comes up and you're like, another one? Do I really have to watch this? There's gonna be another one next Friday. But when the coup in Sudan happened this April, the people were euphoric because life under Omar al-Bashir was awful. During his reign, Bashir enacted a strict form of Sharia law. He locked up thousands of political dissidents and carried out the ethnic cleansing of non-Arabs in Darfur. Yeah, Darfur also happened under Bashir.
His militias scorched earth and massacred his enemies. Hundreds of thousands died and suffered from famine. He was indicted for war crimes, crimes against humanity, and genocide. And in the 1990s, he hosted Osama bin Laden.
Whoa, hey, you can't just throw bin Laden in at the end like that. He's not a Snapple fact. He's like, whoa, bin Laden and Bashir went to San Diego State together? Cool. Now, here's the sickest part. Bashir did all of this while dancing like Sudanese Ellen. Why does all Arab dancing involve a sword or a cane? What is that? If you're gonna shake around a dangerous object, it's supposed to be that ass. I mean, look at him. Juvenile would be proud. He's backing that ass up. You gotta admit, Bashir's thick. Now, on top of Bashir's brutality, Sudan's economy was also collapsing. And all of this is what sparked the pro-democracy movement, which was spearheaded by an organization called the Sudanese Professionals Association, or SPA, a group led by doctors in local unions. Now, that's insane to me because I know so many doctors. Like, if you came up to me and you're like, the doctors are starting a revolution, I'd be like, Karan's revolting? He can't even talk back to his parents. How is he gonna stand up to the military? Like, you're a Karan. Like, look, I mean, I know you have earrings, but that's the most badass thing you've probably ever done. They're like, all right, Karan, we stopped with the earrings. That's it. And you're like, all right, This is an incredibly diverse group of protesters. Sudan is made up of lots of ethnic groups. Historically, Bashir maintained power by oppressing the country's minorities. That way, his majority Arab population stayed in control. But part of what makes these protests remarkable is that Sudanese people from all of these groups, including the Arab majority, came together to overthrow Bashir. And most of these people are incredibly young. 63% of Sudan is under the age of 25. 43% is under 15. Sudan's flag should just be 3 fidget spinners and one of those S's from your algebra homework. You know the S stood for Sudan the whole time. Did you draw that S? Yeah. It's for Sudan, bro. The protesters understood from day one what they were up against. They've seen a failed uprising. They've chanted victory or Egypt, which isn't just regional shit talk. Egypt went through a revolution in 2011. Egyptians replaced their longtime dictator, Hosni Mubarak, with a democracy that elected the Muslim Brotherhood for a year before it was overthrown by a balder, shinier dictator, Sisi. You know what lasted longer than democracy in Egypt? Kevin Can Wait, okay? CBS gave that shit 2 seasons. The Muslim Brotherhood lasted 1. Sudanese protesters don't want to be Egypt. After Bashir fell, the military stepped in to run the transitional government. They're the ones responsible for the killings this week. But the SPA is fighting back, and they're relying on strength in numbers. They've called for civil disobedience and a nationwide strike to paralyze public life. And they're refusing to budge from their fundamental demands: civilian government, an end to the brutal militias, and the empowerment of women. Before mass violence broke out, women were a huge part of this movement.
One of the most striking things about the wave of protests that have swept Sudan since last December is the huge number of women in frontline roles. Tir tir ya Bashir, yells this grandmother as he speeds past. It seems people are becoming braver in voicing their discontent.
I love that grandma. She's just like, sometimes you gotta flex on a bitch. She's saying that to his car. What do you think she's saying in the privacy of home? Now, Sudan is a place where women have faced decades of oppression with virtually